founder and CEO of Windward Foundation, and Peggy and Tony Breda, the owners of A Family Tie. The Windward Foundation's mission is to provide hope and empowerment to those at home caring for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease by guiding families through every stage of the journey with respect and compassion. You'll hear us talk a little bit too about the Alzheimer's Caregiver Alliance. That's our growing community of caregivers and businesses that support the unpaid family caregiver at home, caring for someone with Alzheimer's. And A Family Tie is committed to helping seniors and their families successfully navigate the myriad of senior living options to find the best fit for their unique needs and preferences at no cost to the family. So what you do and what you offer is so important. And in these times in particular, we know that, we're all at home and we're wondering how our families are doing and worried about all the caregivers that we serve as they're dealing with just more stress than normal. And we wanted to have you here just so we could discuss some of the things that are happening in your world and have you explain to families what they can expect, what to look at, and just kind of share some of your insight. So Sean.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry. As we learn. So Sean, what do you think?
I think, these are, I'm going to repeat other people, unprecedented times, right? And when we started the foundation several years ago and started focusing in on the caregiver and the mission of supporting the caregiver, the pressure on them is amazing, right? And when you're involved in working with caregivers, you see it every single day. Now, with this crisis going on, it's even more so because a lot of the outlets that they were banking on are gone, right? The memory, any kind of facility that they might have been able to go to, they may not be able to go to now. And a lot of these patients are in the highest risk category. So social distancing is even more important just to keep them healthy. So one of my questions for you guys is our memory care and assisted living facilities still admitting residents right now during this time and while we're sheltering in place?
That's a great question. And the answer to that is yes and no. Some communities are and some communities aren't. Tony and I stay on top of we touch base with them on a regular basis because it's constantly changing. I had just this week, I reached out to someone on Monday and asked if they were admitting, and they said no. I got a call the next day. They say, hey, we're starting to admit. I got a call yesterday from one of our resources that says, yes, we're starting to admit again. But there's those communities out there who have stayed open through this whole crisis, recognizing the fact that people still need care. People are sick and they need support. So yes, they are. And, but they obviously have very strong precautions in place to really help mitigate the challenges, I guess, that come with this virus in a group setting community.
Good.
So Tony, what do families need to be thinking about right now? And I'm sure you also have families who were talking about moving before this happened and maybe they were midstream, but what do families need to be talking about and thinking about right now?
Well, I think the first thing that families need to be thinking about is that everything's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. There is no industry that is more flexible with more bench strength and creativity than the senior living industry. So the first thing to do is take a deep breath and understand that everything we're talking about now is temporary, and we're going to get back to normal, better and stronger. With regards to moving in, if you're looking to transition someone in the next few weeks, there are some things you really need to be prepared for, and the community that you're transitioning into is going to lead you through that process. They have had medical directors, experts, consultants, the entire team on site really working night and day to perfect what they need to do. Some of those things are just about, how many people are going to be allowed in and out of the community. Most communities have, I should say all, have restricted the number of visitors that can come. So they use terms like lockdown, which is not a fun term, but essentially nobody's coming and going. Even when you're moving mom or dad in, they want to limit the amount of time you're there. there are a number of communities that are saying, hey, we're going to provide furniture. When this gets back to normal, you can switch out to the furniture mom or dad are used to, but just to make it easier for right now, we're going to provide the furniture. You're still going to need to bring mom and dad's clothing, for example, and you're still going to need to drop them off. So, the community is going to guide you through that. But just a couple of things. Keep it simple. Don't bring everything in the world with you. There'll be time for that later. All the knickknacks and photographs, maybe take one or two and bring the clothing that mom and dad really need for the next few weeks. But, you don't need to make a full-blown effort on the move. Also, just as a courtesy, on that one time you're going to the community to bring things, bring your own gloves and maybe even a mask. Keep in mind that you're not necessarily going to have an opportunity to come and go in that first few weeks. As a matter of fact, you're probably not going to be able to come back for several weeks. So just bear those things in mind and keep positive. You've got to set that positive example for everybody. The team there is already stressed. So, they need you to be calm.
So are families able to tour facilities today? And what does that look like? And what questions should they be asking about with regards to day-to-day operational policies and things like that? So you talked a lot about moving in and the aspects of moving in, but when they go and are they able to tour? And when they do, what they should be asking about those weeks where they won't be able to come back? Like, what are the policies they're doing as far as keeping the residents safe? Like, what questions can they ask?
So right now, I was going to say most, but probably all communities are not allowing people in the community to tour. So as Tony mentioned earlier, communities are getting very creative with this. They're doing virtual tours where people have put things together that they can send to families, where my favorite is, you just have the salesperson who walks around the community as if they were doing a tour with their phone and they show them the community. I've had folks send me just pictures and videos that I forwarded to families who are, who really want to see the community. So right now, you really can't, the only people really getting into senior living communities right now, what they call essential medical personnel, and that's like physicians, physical therapists. All those folks aren't actually coming in anymore, but really just the medical professionals are the ones who are coming and going, as well as the care team. But those are things that people need to ask. How are you keeping the community safe? Like, how are you ensuring that those people who you are allowing in and out, how are you protecting your residents from anything that might come in and out? And honestly, I used to run senior living communities, and I'm very thankful I'm not doing it right now. But there are a lot of procedures in place for things just like this. We've had other viruses outbreaks, and those protocols are, I'm sure, being evaluated and updated and advanced. But, cleaning is a huge thing. How often are you cleaning and wiping down surfaces? And because that should be happening all the time, all day long. So those are things that you really want to think about, when you're walking in the community. Who's touching what, and how are you making sure that it's not spreading around the community?
Peggy, I know you have a long history of senior living and running senior living communities. So what, isn't there almost or might there be a benefit for families to have a little bit, say they're quarantined for 2 weeks or whatever after they move their loved one in? Can't that almost be a benefit as far as the person with dementia transitioning into this new environment?
Oh yeah. So I have run, most of my career has been actually running dementia care communities. So, when someone with a cognitive impairment is making that transition to home, to a communal environment, it's difficult. Changing their routine, it's difficult for anybody. But have a dementia on top of that, it becomes more difficult. One of the things that we always recommended was to give the new resident and families, or the resident, a little bit of time to adjust to the new environment. So in reality, the fact that most people are being quarantined, kind of not interacting with other people for the first couple of weeks that they're making this transition, it's ideal in many ways because you're letting the care team do their job and support them and guide them through this process. And it gives that resident, okay, this is my new normal. It gives that them some time to transition to kind of the new living situation and get used to now the new people who are going to be helping them throughout their day.
Awesome. Go ahead, Michelle. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, I think that's really important. I know when our dad was moved to memory care, long before this, many years ago, that was what the recommendation was from the memory care facility where he lived. They asked that we stayed away for the first 10 days to 2 weeks just to let him transition. So I think when families are a little bit afraid of that concept, it's probably good for them to hear that it might actually be a good option for them.
It is.
So, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, it just gives the team time to get to know your loved one because your loved one really, you're their connection. So when they see you again, they think you're coming to take them back to their normal. So they just need to develop that new normal.
Right. So Tony, when you have families that are calling you and maybe they were thinking about the move, but the whole situation that we're in right now has caused them to want to put a pause on the whole situation, what kind of recommendations would you make for these families with regards to home care while they're waiting for this kind of to blow over?
Well, I think the family, you always want to do what's right and do the best that you can. And if in the moment you can't move mom and dad into the ideal situation, then what's the next best thing? And home care can be the next best thing, especially with a reputable company that's insured and provides training for their staff. Unfortunately, there's a lot of home care out there, and you want to be super careful, and we can help with vetting whoever is going to provide that care in the home. So there's a couple different things to kind of be focused on. Most importantly, how does that company train their staff, and what are their protocols to ensure that bringing home care into the home isn't actually also bringing in potential infection with COVID or something else for that matter? Are they taking temperatures on a regular basis with their staff? Are they stressing, hand washing, avoiding touching the face? How are they ensuring that their staff members are practicing good social distancing outside of the workplace? Because ultimately, when that staff member goes home, they've got to be just as careful as they are out at the grocery store or anywhere else. And, they're a number one contact point with your loved one. The other thing to think about is in a community setting, and it may not be possible right now, but in a community setting, there's really no such thing as not having someone to provide care. You've got a pool of staff, 20, 30, 40, 60, 70 people providing care in your typical assisted living. But in a home care company, it's more of a one-on-one equation. What happens when that one individual who's been taking care of your mom for 5 or 6 days in a row calls in sick? All the more important now, we want them to stay home if they're showing any symptoms. What is the company's policy? What is their bench strength? How many individuals do they have for backup? And if they don't have any, or if they're stretched thin, what are you, the loved one, the primary caregiver, going to do about that? How are you going to change your life to help take care of mom and dad? Ultimately, home care is not a bad solution. You just have to have some contingency planning done in your head.
Good. So Tony, this has been really, really informative, and we appreciate you coming on. So you're located in Northern Virginia, and I think, so what's the geographic territory that you cover? And our foundation actually is nationwide. We have people, caregivers in our community across the U.S. So what can you suggest for other families who aren't within your territory and how they can find the resources that you provide?
Sure. So just to clarify, we handle most of central and suburban Maryland, DC, and Northern Virginia.
Okay.
However, we're part of a network of senior living navigators and consultants across the whole country. So if you're seeing this podcast out on the West Coast, and you need some help, give us a call.
Sure.
We'll connect you with the right people, or, Alaska, Hawaii.
Anywhere
Anywhere at
across the
all.
U.S.
Yep, we can help.
Awesome.
And also, just explain real quick, the services that you provide are free to the families. And I think the families really need to hear that, because they think, especially adult children that are long distance, are thinking, oh my gosh, I don't live there. I don't know how to help them. How much is this going to cost? And you really offer such a great service that adult children and those family members long distance can tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. Both Tony and I have 25 plus years of managing and running senior living communities. So what we do is really help families navigate options that are out there. So we, like you said, we don't charge our clients, our families, anything to really utilize our services. And honestly, it's an invaluable service, because every community is different. There's that, old joke, you've seen one senior living community, you've seen one senior living community. So everyone has different policies and procedures. I mean, there's obviously regulations in place, which they all follow, but each company gets to pick and choose what they really want to do. So we kind of navigate through all those different communities, knowing, we help families. Like, I could talk to someone and kind of get a good idea of not just care needs, but what their social needs, what do they like to do, what's important to them throughout the day, what gives them purpose and pleasure. And I could generally find, oh yeah, this community is going to be able to match, basically what they're looking at. So not just their care needs, but their social needs. And of course, financial needs are always a big part of what we do. So we are able to really help find those communities that are going to match those families with the right communities without having to see every single thing in the market, because they're all different.
That's
right,
awesome.
absolutely.
I know when we were looking for our father's place, it was a lot of work. And then after our father passed away, our mom went through the same process for assisted living. And it's a lot of work, a lot of research. And
it really is.
It's just great.
But we do this every single day. So for us, we did all the work already. So now it's just having the knowledge and staying on top of what's happening in those communities. Just like with this virus right now, I mean, it was really important for us to reach out to all of our connections and say, hey, what are you guys doing? How are you protecting your residents? Are you still admitting people? All that kind of stuff. So families don't have to call each individual community and going, what's your process? We already have that information, and we are updated really daily, because they're all reaching out to us now. So
good.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Well, we thank you so much for joining us. I think this information is so important to our families. I'll tell everyone that's listening to learn more about A Family Tie. We'll put a link below in this podcast, and as well as the Windward Foundation. We urge all of you to join our Alzheimer's Caregiver Alliance community online. You can visit our website and just click join our community to get the latest and greatest as we, as we help all of you through this journey of caring for a loved one at home with Alzheimer's disease. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thanks, Michelle.
Great. Thanks for
Sean.
having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.